My dear YouTube community, hope you had a good night tonight. And I received many comments on my Narcissistic Mother YouTube creations. And I want to get into one theme which I think it was also requested is especially important when we are talking about healing from narcissistic mothers. I'm always like tempted to use like a little bit depictive language when I'm talking about how these people can mess with our heads, okay? And when we're talking about healing and talking about getting messed with my head, somebody messing with my head, I'm like, what? This is my head. This is all inside of me. We need to talk about something here, something really important. The entire cognition, everything, what we think, how we think, for how long we think it, how deep those, I call them these rabbit paths are run through, where we keep on going into a same thought over and over again, determines really completely, like sufficiently, how we feel. Yes, it might be that we feel first. Yes, it might be that we first have an impression that somebody, a perception that somebody impresses us, or impresses an emotion on us, that there was a conflict, that there was something which introduced something inside of me, like a chemical response to it, let's put it like this, which would traduce into an emotion. But this emotion, and this is something really, really in the center of how I'm teaching healing and inner healing, can't be there by itself. This is impossible. So your emotions are substantially mediated, let's put it like this, by the way how you think about the situation, the things, yourself, the other person, the circumstance, etc. What does that mean to us? You can now come up and can say, come on, and like add insult to injury. I don't want to do that. I'm not here to accuse you. I'm not here to tell you that you were the guilty one in the game. That was the narcissistic person who tried to do this because this person did not want to assume responsibility for their feelings and how they act. Responsibility and, let's say, making somebody feel guilty or blaming is basically the same side of a different side of the same stick. I can take total responsibility for my feelings, and then I will regulate myself emotionally. If I have learned that, to do that, okay? And there's another aspect to me being able to assume responsibility for my own emotions, which is that I possibly have learned that, first of all, I have approved of it as being a tool which serves me, and that I don't only do it with myself, I don't have to, it's a healthy tool. I could also assume responsibility for others. I especially want to talk about this in this context, where you had to grow up with a person, or you are in a relationship with a person, let's call this person narcissistic, if this is something you can relate to, it seems like a coined term right now these days, years, which is becoming bigger, and this is not an accident. This is not an accident. I want to tell you about this too, but let's keep it going with responsibility, with cognition, and with blame or feeling guilty about something, which is the other side of the same stick. So if you're a person who is, and it has to do with empathy, and it has to do with being, I call this the owner of the house. You can be the owner of the house, a house which is a complete armor, and you be always on the defensive side. This would be this accusing side. This would be this narcissistic side. It's also a self-protective side, and you might also have your own way of having your armor on and protecting yourself. I don't say this is bad in itself. It needs to be a process where and then we get back to cognition, where I get back into myself and where I keep on evaluating what I am doing, and if what I'm doing is right, and you can say ethic, or if it is hurting others, or if it is just, or if it is righteous, or whatever, however you want to name it right now. So this armor is something we all have in common. There's nothing new about it. If you're having a person around you who hurts you, who is grandiose, who lets you down, who minimizes your feelings, who is completely self-centered, who is never the one who assumes responsibility for their words, for how they act, for how they mess with your mind, how they, for example, say today one thing and then they switch it around for only to be right all the time, for turning things in your mouth, whatever it is. You probably know well the attributes or the behaviors or how it feels a narcissistic person, or a person who is, if you want to put it like this, who is emotionally abusive. Fine. Okay? So you know how they act, and you know how you react to them. And when you have grown up or are in a relationship with a person like this, first of all, look for help. You should not be in there, or you should be really empowering yourself, and then you're not in a relationship with somebody like this, or it doesn't have these qualities anymore. But let's not go too deep into this. I wanted to talk about our armor, which I also sometimes call this box. I call this my safe. My safe is like, I call this like here between like my heart and my stomach. This is where I sometimes can feel it, like these strong negative emotions, which are all, let's say, safe in there. Okay? Why should they have to be safe in there? Because they are disturbing. If I haven't learned to manage my emotions, what you probably haven't when you had to grow up with a person who would let you down all the time. As a system, the system is to victimize you. The system is to have you small, like that small, that it is smaller than the person who is aggressive in that way feels. This person will not show this. This person puts on top of this is how I got from there, this entire armor of being great, of being always right, of being the one, and of being not feeling with others, without admitting it. So you're having all these feelings inside of this box, and you sometimes don't want to get in there because you haven't learned in the first step to deal with it. Okay? When strong emotions are coming up, and when and this is the entire or part of the mind messing thing. The mind messing thing is essentially that somebody tells you Let's say you're wrong, but you feel you're right. This is basically the explanation for confusion. When you are confused, when somebody messes with you, that you're like, huh? You know, you get all this like, what? You know, you get all like crazy. This is a moment where essentially, let's put it really simple, your mind starts to believe something, what somebody tells you, but which isn't, let's say, informed by your inner being, and possibly not even by this box, because this box could inform you of fear, of shame, of guilt, of anxiety, of all kinds of things, which neither is a way of informing you of what is really going on. Can you follow me? I hope you can follow me. So these strong emotions inside of this box, they need to be cleared up, let's say. I always compare it to, you know, at night, think about New York or something like this, and all the skyscrapers in wintertime, and there's all these like beautiful lights inside of these windows of the skyscrapers, you know, them sometimes here and there and there and there and there. And I always imagine this box to be about like this. So we sometimes have the chance to look into this skyscraper safe box, into what is there with our, not our emotions, our hurt childhood emotions. Okay, so we look into this and we're like, oh my God, you know, we like don't want to like go there, which is a totally natural reaction, because we haven't learned to deal with those emotions. This is why they're still in there. Okay, so you get the chance in this healing process to have a look at this box, you know, like opening like this skyscraper, these windows, look in there. This is like a it's not always warm in there, you know, but it's like maybe fiery. You look in there and you're like, oh my God, this is a burning house, you know, I don't want to look into this. You should look into it, but really slowly and really well guided, you know. You don't try to open it up all at once, you know. It's going to be like this steam cook pot, you know. You open the lid and it's all like, and you burn yourself, you know. You can't do this. So go slowly. Go in reality. The moment conflicts are coming up, have a look at them, and I'll give you a little bit of a guidance right now of how to deal with, on a cognitive level, here in your head, with strong upcoming emotions. Or you probably want to start up with it by learning to set limits, which is the safe path. And second point is learning to find a safe spot for yourself where you can be with yourself, only yourself, where you have the time to look into yourself, and where you can let out some emotions, you know, can heal a little bit, can have a look at them. I always call it as if there were like a bunch of cards on your table, you know, and they're like your life, you know. Sometimes we have to like pick up one of those cards again, look at it, scary stuff, you know, but this time we look at it because we're adults. I know I'm having already like young people also on the channel. You can do this the same way. It's harder if you can't get out of the situation, if you are constantly and still confronted with a person like this, you know, a person who is constantly picking on you, and you haven't gotten the dynamics right so far. It's hard to open up at this point. Of course, you should hopefully be able to distance yourself from a narcissistic person. if you can't so far, just stay in contact with yourself. Don't you ever think arguing with a person like this. Don't you ever think you'll be capable of winning them over, of changing them, of convincing them, of making them, revise themselves. Just don't think about that. This channel is for you to heal. I need you to heal here. You're not going to heal this other person. If she or he wants to heal on the way, fine, you'll see it. But you, from now on, take care of yourself. Now I'm coming back to the stick. I'm jumping a little bit back and forth. Responsibility, you possibly, if you have grown up with a narcissistic mother, and it equally applies for people who are watching this who are right now in a narcissistic relationship to another person. When you have learned to be held responsible for emotional outbreaks, for rage, anger, accusations, for you always being the guilty one in the game, because there's somebody who has like the white vest, then you have learned to assume responsibility for the wrong party, let's say it like this, because you left yourself out of the game. Yes, you shut yourself down to guard yourself, to not be overrun by your emotions, and you didn't know what to think about it, right? That's how far we came. But you possibly, and you might feel guilty because the person who was guilty of it all didn't assume responsibility, feels guilty. Be sure these people feel so guilty. This is more than anything what they feel. All right? So you assume the guilt of this person. It's not yours. You can give it away. It's all right. You're done. Okay? And from now on, you can be responsible. The other side of the stick here, the responsibility part. You can now be responsible for your own life and for making you feel good and for treating other people right. Because, this also came up in the comments, which is very right. This being afraid, having absorbed some of these personality traits. It might not be a personality. It might just be a narcissistic, a decision to abuse, to let you down, to have a victim, the one chosen, sometimes it's more than one, and to behave in a certain manner which serves the narcissistic person to not get in contact with their guilt, with their emotional out of control, with their inner felt victimness, while they are not getting in contact with the people who have victimized them and putting them limits, but choosing that part, okay, and going on exactly this role of being now the abuser, of being now the victimizer, of being now the strong person, of being now the one who is in power, because they feel so powerless. So what this person tries to do all the time, these people can't do it if you don't allow them to do it. Just remember, they can't do it with you if you won't allow them to. So if this person tries, because this person feels so guilty and this person does not assume responsibility, okay, for their own feelings, shortcomings, their own guilt, this person is trying to get you always a little bit lower than they are. This is why they are so sensitive to you empowering yourself. The moment you only slightly empower yourself, they rage and rule up the pressure on you. they really start, screwing with your mind and with everything else around to make sure they get you again, just be it like this really slight position under them, in form of a victim, in form of feeling bad, in form of feeling guilty. There's so many aspects to it. It's really hard to put this all like in a quick turn. I hope you understood those dynamics. I hope you understood the armor and your box, and that it's really scary to get on there, and that we all have this box. And yes, you might have taken on parts of dealing with other people, with emotions, with subordinated people, or with superior people. Okay? This is why I love to call this channel Inner Healing and Leadership. When you heal, healing is always a process of self-empowerment. Okay? And power doesn't have to be abusive power. Power is also simply participative power. Being there, being my whole self, and being what God has called me to be. All right? And then you are an agent in this world. And you have a mission. And you need to get to this mission. Your mission was not to heal this narcissistic person. Your mission is to find your own purpose and your own leadership, and to get on it. Now, during the entire round, I'm throwing more and more concepts in here. Leadership, being disempowered, an empowerment process. So your narcissistic person can only empower herself, or if it's another type of relationship, himself. And if you have been, and I said that before in my videos, grown up with narcissistic people, you will be sensitive to them, and you will choose them again in other type of relationships, in your work, at university, with your peers, with subordinated, with whoever. Okay, taking on similar ways of dealing with power, empowerment, of dealing with boundaries, of dealing with emotional hurt, of dealing with guilty, not feeling guilty, of dealing with being assertive, expressing your needs, expressing what you're feeling, expressing who you are, expressing especially negative emotions. And we again get back to the box. When that thing is so closed, and once I open it, and there's it's almost like I have to have the fear that something comes up, because there's so strong emotions in there that I have to rationalize them day after day. So we get in this huge rationalizing thing. We don't have to. We can also do other things. We can get into all kinds of addictions. We can get into overworking. We can get into sexual stuff. We can get into all kinds of things which are creating chemistry, the feeling good chemistry in our lives. It can be overeating. It can be chocolate. It can be smoking. It can be, tell me what doesn't create chemistry in our bodies, and you can choose whichever you're prone to, whichever passed your way, and you can choose, and you see what makes you feel good. Sometimes your body craves, it also depends a little bit on how you grew up and which kind of receptors you have. So we know that also traumatic or alcoholic receptors, they do get inherited, but you can do something about it. You're not determined. Don't tell me this. It's not. So your head is what most is being messed with. Your head might be the agent which is more than anything trying to get a hold of your emotions. So since you don't have how to deal with it, you're just not doing it. Nobody told you how to do it. So you have all these like failed intents, all your failed ways of dealing with emotions, of letting them out, of trying to see if they are okay, if you are okay, you know, of taking yourself serious. But since you're all in this surrounding of completely dysfunctional people, how do you want to do this? How do you want to get healthy responses? And don't worry about it. Yes, you can, and you are. There is already niches where you are right now, or you can choose them, where people support you, though you're not used to being and sticking and staying with and around people who support you. It's like this entire chemistry which you keep on searching for the known, for what you are habituated to. Get that? So, cognition can be a tool if you have the tools. If you don't have the tools, it still possibly was a tool for you to survive, in which manner ever, or in making choices, in thinking, rationalizing, and understanding. But each time, this is a hard one, we rationalize without getting in contact first with this inside, this intuition, I call this. And this is again mediated by the box. Those are two different things. Watch out. By the safe, you know, with the strong negative emotions. They also want to come up, you know, once I get in contact, they want to be let out. They want to be dissolved. You know, you want to heal. We're human beings. We want to heal. We want to be healed. So, what we need in order to heal is understand more the processes of distinguishing strong emotions coming up and what to do with them. Hopefully being able to retreat, to find a safe place. Hopefully, I hope for you that you are able to get out of the relationship, because this would give you possibly more chances to heal. Anyways, if you stay inside the relationship, if it is a mother relationship you don't want to like cancel out completely, or if you are in a partner relationship and you're having kids, or whatever the circumstances are, make just one thing sure. You set boundaries, don't engage with these people, and from now on, you take care of yourself. Means strong emotions coming up, hopefully you're going to be having a safe place where to go to. This is the box. Learning the difference between me rationalizing, as we always say, a narcissist messes with your head, makes you understand this person is right, while you feel this person isn't right, this person does wrong to you. Yeah? Very generally speaking. So what you need to understand is, when are you rationalizing what is happening outside in terms of being threatened? And what is happening if you use your cognition to be safe, to console yourself, to be there for you, to set boundaries, to understand their role? Very important. This is a very strong aspect of you being able to get out of it, is understanding the game. And already by understanding the game, that's where I dropped off before, is where you get out of this power thing. And that's where the narcissistic person gets up the power level on you. Like, makes the pressure more, strengthens the pressure. Can you give me the words? And there you need to be strong, and you can't engage in an argument with them. Your first goal now, from now on forever, until the end of times will be to be with you, with your truths, and it doesn't matter, regardless of this being a really crazy truth at this moment, and many people saying, you're crazy, this one is crazy, because you're rationalizing, because you're using drugs, because you're using this and that, and your whatever techniques you use, depression, being bipolar, being today happy and tomorrow, down, whichever way was good enough for you. Psychosis was good for you? Okay, I understand, but these conditions are not there to stay. It's a way you chose to deal with adversity, and you can get a better life little by little by employing some of these techniques. And the first technique will always be to listen inside. You will listen to this box, it will come up, it will contact you. Yes, it will. And you can choose for how long you want to be with this box. For how long you want to be angry, sad, outraged, guilty, shameful. You choose. Sometimes we can't choose for how long this all stays there. But when I say you choose, it is to know it's coming up to be resolved, dissolved. It's coming up to be looked at. And that's the hard one. Okay? And it's coming up for you to stay in there for as long as you can. Or you want to. To see what is this, I call this inner child, this strong emotion, which needs to be protected, which needs to be listened to, which needs to be, which needs to have you as an adult here, or at least an older person than this, what's coming up here as strong emotions, which is all like, unboxed in here, will protect you and will set boundaries. This is the alpha and omega of healing. That you understand where and when to set boundaries. To get into a safe space where you make the listening inside of you. But since you have to get out into the world again, you need to set boundaries. Start with a neighbor. Start with a neighbor if it's too hard to do it with this highly conflicting person you're in contact with. Learn to set boundaries. Expressing your own feelings in an I form. I would like you to back up. I would have preferred you would have said that in nicer words. I can't reinforce this. I can't say you have to do this. Assertive communication and setting boundaries is not for others. They were getting into the healing thing again. It's for me. Understand. Because it brings up my boundaries and my knowledge about people, of understanding, are they now crazy or am I crazy here? Is this right or am I right? So it all has to do with information too. And you better watch out where you get informed. Are you getting informed with all the circle of people who think your narcissistic relative or relationship is great? She's so great, You're crazy. I could tell forever that you were crazy. Do you know why people think you're crazy? Because you were made crazy. You're not crazy by itself. You had to choose to better be crazy, because crazy is being confused. So you give out this vibe of a confused person, you know, the less you have healed. Got me there? So this is real. And I still want to jump back to this idea of, will I or have I absorbed, or am I repeating patterns of this narcissistic person? You probably are. Just get real. You probably are, because you have not learned to be emotionally available, emotionally cleared up, emotionally there, empathetic. You know, you're maybe empathetic, but on the other side of the bar, you know, of the barra, of the stick, excuse me, you know, like being a people pleaser, like being the one who's feeling guilty all the time and responsible for other people than yourself. Okay, so that ain't so really right either. You might feel good with it because you might feel it is not how she was, which was the last thing you wanted to become. And when you go your way of healing, you'll see you have adopted things from her. Yes, it's totally natural, totally regular, and it's a way of, you know, learning by observation. If you didn't have better tools in your hand, in your head, you know, of how dealing with narcissistic people, of people who cross your boundaries, of subordinate people, of dealing with people on the same level but opening emotionally, being vulnerable, where do you want to draw from? Gotta learn that all. No problem. You can do that. You know, you can do it. So, need to catch up again with all those elements I've been talking about, I've been introducing, of finding your safe space, of setting limits, of learning about the dynamics, of staying strong and true to yourself at the moment this narcissistic mother or this other narcissistic relationship you're in notices that you are empowering yourself, that you are getting out of the role of taking responsibility for her, what she feels guilty about, you know, and making now you feel guilty. Hello? You know? And to separate yourself from that, to be true more to yourself than to anybody else. And this means starting a lecture, starting to read yourself of what is happening in your head, information, safe and wise information, versus rationalizing and getting this whole like going to keep emotions down. That's where I stopped before. No, I was doing this part of intuition, understanding and connecting with my intuition, which informs me in a sane way, you know, of the insanity which is going on there. And the other thing is this intuition, like this healthy feeling, this healthy myself, distinguishing that from strong emotions coming up which want to make me understand or make me feel what she wanted me to feel. That I'm guilty, you know, that I have to be anxious, that I can't express my sadness. Grief is going to be a huge thing once you get out of these kind of relationships. In this box, there's lots of sadness, there's lots of loneliness, there's not lots of ungrieved grief. And you need to work yourself through that. This doesn't mean that when you find yourself safe place and once strong emotions come up, once you notice you need a time out because things are getting crazy again in your head and you need your time to sort out things, this doesn't mean that you get stuck in there. cry for 20 minutes. If you can, write down. It's helpful. I know there's many people that I don't want to. Don't do it then, you know. But brief yourself concerning what is really going on inside of yourself. Okay. Express emotions. If you have to cry, and I can't even tell you for how often you will have to cry in this point of the process you're in, because I don't know where you're in. I don't know if when you cry once an hour for 10 minutes, if this is to let those emotions out, or if this is to hold on to those emotions, you know. So this is not so easy to distinguish for me, like here on you know, over the channel. But make sure that you advance in how you feel about it, in how the process works. Don't stay in a depressive state, you know. Make sure that you also learn how to get out once a day, you know, do your tasks, find a creative way of dealing with things, find your passions, do significant things, find support. Please find support. Support is support. You also can have in those support groups those people who are not aware, talking about blind spots, of how they have adopted what they were exposed to their life long. So there's, you know, like emotionally shadowy people around, you know, and it would be important for you to not fix them. You know, it would be important for you to be safe and get out where you need to get out, and to learn to read yourself. Now I wanted to talk in this video actually about cognition. So let's get to that. Cognition is only helpful if you understand the box, the intuition, the craziness in your head, the setting boundaries, the me-I messages of while setting boundaries, me-I messages while I'm expressing emotions. Although it might make you feel even more victimized, it might make you feel making yourself more vulnerable. When you talk about your emotions, when you talk about setting limits, that you admit that something hurts you, you can now. And if you have healthy people around you, they will respect you. And if somebody doesn't respect you, you'll know. And you'll know then, you get out of there as soon as you can and as fast as you can. This is somebody you've been attracting. They're around, but that this person preys on you is your low boundaries. Then we're getting back to where I always say, I don't want to offend you. I don't want to, you know, like add insult to injury. But you are the one now responsible for those people no longer popping up in your life and not any longer treating you that way. It might not be elegant at first. You might not be really good at it, at setting boundaries, at expressing yourself, at feeling okay doing it, at expressing your emotions and distinguishing it from putting your emotions over someone who doesn't want to maybe hear the whole deal and the whole ride, you know, and being the one communicating emotions in a sense of or making yourself hurt or setting boundaries. So this is all a complicated thing. No, it's not a one-day thing. And let's get to the point where I really wanted to get to. Stay focused. Don't focus on the problem. Focus on the solution. This is basically a little bit of what cognitive healing is about. Don't no longer focus on the problem. You're done. You're done with the problem. if you focus on her, on if it's another narcissistic relationship, abusive relationship, on what she has all done to you, what he has all done to you, and other people too, because this was not the last person who had, abusive patterns with you. I told you why. Because your boundaries are down, right? You need to build this strong self by cognitive healing. For me, starts not only by understanding the dynamics, the roles, and what is happening, which is information. Understanding of what my emotions communicate to me, what the box communicates to me, and what my intuition communicates to me, and who and what is talking here, and discern. And then to understand what's going on in your head and how you use cognition to either stay inside of a victim role, right? Or you use cognition to understand the dynamics which are happening, excuse me, and to from now on start with the basics of what you most missed out on is understanding, is love, is confidence in yourself, is appreciation. Let's put it like this. You might be as much as the victimizer, be a person who was highly applauded because you were good at rationalizing, and since you were criticized so much, you have become possibly a high achiever. Doesn't have to be, but you have your points of how you are being applauded by people. We all have them. And you exercise this. And this is not self-worth, self-confidence, self-love. Be careful. This is possibly achieving and getting applauded to, that you can, okay, I now know how to make the difference. That you could stay in this role because your abuser does it too, your narcissistic person does it too, being constantly applauded to, because they feel so bad, we feel so bad about ourselves, and then we get constantly from outside the validation that we are okay, that we are enough, that we are worth, that we are true, that we are whatever, have dignity, and so on, that we are someone. Okay? This has nothing to do with self-love. Watch out. Self-love is something which I do over cognition. Self-care. I talked about this in earlier videos a little bit. You start from now on to be there emotionally for you, to hold this inner child. I've been doing videos about this. You can check them out on my channel. To love yourself, to stop this inner critique, this critique which was her, him, whoever repeated the pattern and made those, I call them these, these rabbit paths, like deeper, so that it's harder for them to get ironed out again. Negative paths of critique and self-critique. Recognize when you critique yourself, when you are now being the one being harsh on yourself as she was. Now that's the trick, and it is very much connected to repeating patterns, to blind spots, and to absorbing and reenacting patterns which you have lived. Just be realistic. We're not perfect. Don't flagellate yourself, don't, retreat, in self-guilt and whatever. Start doing better every day. Not focusing on the problem, but on the solution, which would always be self-care. Treat yourself. If you're a girl, as you would treat the most precious little girl in the world. Imagine that one. She is so adorable. She is so cute. You love her so much. And this is you. And now you make her like this in your mind. And it is you. And you hold this inner child. You'll be there for her or for him. If it's a him, if you're a guy. Think about the most adorable kid, guy, boy you can possibly think of, and how would you create this kid? How would he be? How would he behave? That you would have him so dear, that you would love him so much, you would do anything to protect him, to make him grow, to promote him, to make him understand that he's so great, that he will be the greatest guy in the world, that you believe in him, that you cheer him on, and that you will protect him, that he is under your protection, under your shield, and that he can be calm, that he can be trusting you, yeah, that you will have always an eye on him or on her, okay? And this is self-love. First you do it over this imaging of this person you can really love. You do it naturally because you create this one. And if this can already be you, fine. And if it's like something somehow separate, which is more likely to be like this, call it your inner child, okay? And make sure you always take care of, it's in the end it's a way of feeling about it. Sure, there's an imagery, I don't want you to like dissociate and stuff and create like different things and personalities. That's not the path. The path is an understanding how you feel with this little person you are creating as this totally idealistic boy or girl in your world. And while you feel this, how this feels, how one can love this person, this kid, you understand the emotion. And now you treat yourself with this emotion. Each time you look in the mirror, you're saying, I love how you look. You are so fine. You are so sweet. I love you so much. And this is the way how you would talk if it's hard for you, and I know it will be hard for you. I know it. I did it, with people, with myself too. And if it's hard for you, imagine this kid with how much lightness you could talk to this kid, to promote it, to love it, to appreciate it, to cheer it on, to give it absolution, when they didn't, live up to what they wanted to, say, that doesn't matter, you just try again, I love you. That's not the problem here. I know you can do better. I will be there for you. You don't even have to say you can do better. It was good enough. And get into the feel. That's the thing of this exercise. How that feels, and to more and more draw it in, right? As something you direct towards yourself. This love, this appreciation, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can try again. It's no problem. Don't have to be perfect, You don't have to be elegant the way you need to set boundaries. You don't have to be perfect how you talk to people, how you be there, how you control your emotions. Just make sure that you always do this cognitive, that's again cognition, this balancing out, like this self-regulation, this self-asking yourself, not in form of flagellating yourself or criticizing yourself, but doing a really healthy process of let me see what was going on here. You know, how can I improve now? How can I express my emotions better? How can I now set better boundaries? How can I be there for me? And again, getting back to focusing no longer on the problem, but on the solution. This is a part of focusing on the solution. And you should really, really, really start to no longer use negative thoughts for thinking about your future. You shouldn't even think much about your narcissistic mother. And why I'm saying that, because in the former videos I was all enumerating all the traits narcissistic people have, and I'm at a point where I don't even want to go there anymore. I know you need to understand this and to know this for understanding where you're standing and who this person is. I know it's important, but to be really honest, I don't want to go there into this accusation modus, or this modus of you did to me, and not to talk about forgiving right now, because this would push this whole video over its boundaries. But there's a video I did about forgiving. It's not really interesting, forgiving as a all by itself separate part, it seems like. So people are not so interested in forgiving. I used to give forgiving classes and they were not good visited, so I started to include this inside of this entire inner healing workshops. And there it made sense for people, because people understand forgiving is being indulgent with a person who doesn't deserve it, or in the end saying it is okay how you treated me and I will now stay forever in my victim position, which is everything else but forgiving. Okay? Forgiving is understanding what you did to me. So this is why this is very well put into this inner healing context, where you first need to say what happened. You first need to point out and understand the dynamics of this relationship and how it hurt you. Write it down if you have to, make clear what it is, but don't get stuck on the accusation part. You did to me, and all this anxiety this causes. Also get into touch with this, that there you get possibly out of your intuition and next again to the box, where all your anxiety is getting triggered. And you want to feel it and be there, but you can look into these little windows better if you start understanding little by little the dynamics, including self-love and self-care into your world, and starting to convert your negative thoughts into positive, which are usually directed towards your future and what you want to build. Okay? They can also be directed towards this being here where you are right now, so you can feel really bad, just be really attentive to what's going on inside of you. So you can feel really bad, and then you just calm yourself down. Then you use the inner child technique. You be there with your strong emotions, and you kind of hold yourself and just be there for yourself. And this you do it over cognition. Ta-da! Got that? Alright, so that's complex. There were some techniques for you for today. Yeah, I'll just stop it here. I'll be opening a Facebook group for us to do this if you want coaching. We'll do group coaching. I right now don't do much individual coaching. You can contact me. It's Christina@christinajunge.com. .com. and I'll be happy to be there for you. You know, I'm a German speaker, a Spanish speaker, and people contact me already in their language, so it's there for you. I love you much, folks. Be safe, be with yourself, and get to practice, you know. It's your turn now. I talked. Ciao. Bye.